if Governor Wike says that you have a chunk of votes coming from Rivers State, and then you hear statements like, ignore Wike at your own peril because he already has like his votes coming from that region, are you actually saying that the new electoral amendment, a new electoral act would definitely jettison that part where he would promise votes from his area? Is that what you're saying?
If he says that we have a pool of votes from Rivers because it's a PDP state, I will agree 100%. Because if it is a PDP state, understandably, the members of the party will vote for their party, all right? But if he said, ignore Wike, not ignore Rivers, ignore Wike at your own peril, that's where I'll have a little bit of disagreement. Because there is no guarantee that he can give the votes he promised. He's only entitled to one vote. The best he can do by the new amendment, I'm sure a lot of politicians actually have not been able to come to terms with that. Osun has demonstrated that. The governor of that state, and Asiwaju historically is from Osun, they move all the machineries of the southwest to Osun, guaranteed overwhelming victory. Do you know the outcome? APC was defeated. Do you know why? Electronic transmission of results is that the highest you can do as a governor is to persuade many people. Just keep persuading them to come to you. But the idea that I can, and I'm telling you this, you will come back to me after 2023 election, God keeping us alive and well, and we will analyze this idea that I will give certain vote, you will no longer be telling.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We're reaching you from Captain's Television here in the nation's capital, Abuja. If you just joined us, you're right on time for the interview. Our guest on the show tonight is Dr. Daniel Bwala. He is a legal practitioner. He is an adjunct lecturer. He's an arbitrator and also a regulatory consultant. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
All right, now let's start. Let's talk about you. Let's start with you. Let's start by breaking the ice. Now, you recently left APC for the People's Democratic Party after several years, about 7 years or so.
Right.
And we're going to start by asking, why exactly did you leave the party, even though some people have said, was it that PDP actually promised you the position that you had now, or what exactly was the reason why you left the party?
Well, thank you for coming. Sometimes I beg the apologies of the media, but sometimes I even feel like being flogged with the question like over and over again, where I have to explain why I left, because to me, the emphasis is not about why I left, but about who I left to support. Because ultimately, by 2023, I will not be in the ballot. The person I'm supporting, Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of People's Democratic Party, is the one that is going to be on the ballot. But it's still okay. I've said it, and I don't think it is even new now, that I left because first, the party made a decision of a same-faith ticket, what is popularly known as same-faith ticket, where the presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate of the same faith. Nigeria is a multilingual, multicultural, and multi-religious country. And diversity is one of the concepts in our constitution that takes very serious precedence over so many things. Because after the Civil War in 1970, one of the concepts that people developed in order to bring about integration, to have a one Nigeria with shared prosperity, was diversity, recognizing that you come from different parts of the country, you have different cultural and religious background, but if we have to coexist as one country, then we must recognize those differences and work along those. And politically, even though we had distortions in the past, but for the most part, since after 1993, You have seen that political parties have always balanced it, especially in balancing the ticket as far as the national affairs of politics is concerned. You know,
Okay.
because on domestic affairs of politics, you will find that some states, maybe the dominant tribe or dominant religion against the other religion might be 90 to 10. And so even if individual produce people of same ticket, it doesn't seem to matter as much as when you are talking about the country, because in the case of the country, you are looking at two of the major religion in Nigeria is Islam and Christianity, right? Almost at par. So when you bring a Christian ticket for presidential and vice, or Muslim for presidential and vice, you will know that a greater demography, a good number of the people from that demography will feel some type of way about it. And yeah, I felt so strongly about that decision, and so I decided to leave. Then this, to answer the B part of what you were asking, whether I was promised before I left. If it was on the basis of promise, I already had that in APC.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because the flag bearer had already promised me before the primaries.
Then you become the spokesperson.
Yes, I'll become the spokesperson.
Okay.
And and some people also try to escalate to, because I've heard some, lazy argument. I know, powered by APC people, that he probably left because of the money. But if it is because of the money, it is well documented that Asiwaju has more money than Atiku. So I ordinarily should have just stayed if it's because of the money. And I've supported Asiwaju without money being involved. Money is never my consideration. I've supported Buhari for 7 years without money being involved. Money is not my consideration. I'm a hardworking Nigerian citizen. I have employees working for me, which I am contributing my part to economic development of the country. The whole idea of a free society, free entrepreneurial or private-driven society is for people to create jobs. And that, with pride, I can say I've been able to create jobs in my practice of law. So that isn't a problem. Basically, that is the reason why I left APC for PDP. But shortly after I left, it even became more apparent to me that apart from the same faith ticket, there would have been a lot of reasons that I could have considered to have
And you
left.
never found out before the same faith ticket
Yes.
came up?
Well, I noticed them, but just like the way, well, you pardon me, from the faith where I come from, it says love covers multitude of sin. So if I am committed to a political party, the idea is that I am to look at the positives, the possibilities of the party, and give them chance. So when they started in the first term, we were pushing support for them and said, look, give them time. They have infrastructure to develop, and infrastructure is not developed overnight. So, but we finished the first term. We came into the second term. Some of the things that were not completed in the first term, we believe they were going to be completed in the second. And some of the progresses that we thought that ought to have started in the first term, which were never started for one reason or the other, we thought that at the beginning of the second term we will see it. But we just have 1 year left. For example, I give you an example of Nigerian Airways. When the president came on board, he said it is his dream to ensure that in the first 1 year or two, where they will launch Nigerian Air. This is 7 years. There is no.
But it's still in the pipeline, though.
Yeah, so many things are in the pipeline, because 7 years during this period, Cross River, Calabar, and Akwa Ibom have launched their own local airlines, and they are doing extremely well in Nigerian airspace. And these are federating units. So what stops the federal government with the power of regulation, power of investment, guarantee for investment and all that? What have they not done? The only thing we can boast of actually is the logo of the Nigerian Air. But we have not been able to see that. So for example, in infrastructure, I'm one of those individuals that praised President Buhari for his doggedness in ensuring that he focused on infrastructure, which to me is key to economic development, and that I give him credit for that. But then if you push further, we saw what the World Bank said about infrastructure, especially Kano to Maradi, where they did a finding and discovered that the 1 kilometer, as approved by the African Union for budget for construction of 1 kilometer, that Nigeria as a country projected their own by 100%, meaning that if it cost $100,000 to build 1 kilometer road, say in Tunisia or Egypt or any African country, in Nigeria, it is costing $1 million. And I heard the lazy defense that the spokesman for APC gave by saying that the reason why Nigeria is different is because here we have certain sand or our land different. And I'm just imagining, if you look at West Africa, Kano to Maradi, is it a swampy area like the Southeast? Kano to Maradi is not a swampy area. It is an area that is well ripe for that kind of construction to take place without giving the excuses. In other words, corruption. That's the summary of it all. And you can run it across many projects of the government. That's
All right, so we will definitely get back to that. But now you said you actually left the APCB because of the same fate ticket and
Right.
all. Now, we usually take messages from our social media corner, and then someone said, oh, okay, before we get to that, you actually made a statement, you made a quote that says, is a tweet rather, that quotes,
Yeah.
tonight I officially quit my membership of our official APC-NG on values and conviction that I hold so dear. At this point in the history of our nation, all of our focus, energy, and effort should be directed towards bringing our people together. So Ashiwaju has named Kashim Shettima as his running mate. Now, you've actually explained that part. But then let's pick a message from our social media corner. And this person says, I'm trying to bring
Right.
one of them. Okay. So, okay, okay, definitely, I've seen it. It says, this is the same guy that speaks for APC and blames PDP for Nigeria's problem. He now speaks for the PDP and blames APC for Nigeria's problem. What are your thoughts on that?
I just explained to you. You remember I said if you are in a political party, you look beyond the present flaws because of the promises. Because like we're approaching 2023, every political party and candidates, they will go into the election giving promises, right? And detailing what you intend to do. So that it's not just about, I will construct road, but you have to explain how you raise the funding, right? And why you think construction of road is much more important than, say, for example, hospital or anything. And in the hope of promises lies the commitment of members of political party. I couldn't have been against APC being in APC, because then it means that you are not a focused person. But I'm one of the fewest individuals, even when I was at APC, and I say that because the documents, the videos, they are replayed all over. I'm one of the fewest APC, when I was in APC, one of the fewest members of APC that was very objective. I would meet at the airport, abroad, at home, in shopping malls, with members of PDP, then another political party. They would say, look, we come from different political party, and for that we are different, but I like your objectivity. I like the fact that even though you're with this party, but you find a way of telling the government what you think is right. And the video is there.
So are you going to do the same for PDP? Are you?
For sure. I've said it in one of my interviews when someone said, you see, because there is this thing called patriotism, and there is this thing called partisanship.
Partisanship.
So as we are going into election, this is partisanship period. You go to the trade fair, you're marketing your product. Once the elections are over and you go into governance, what destiny behoves of you is to come up with the patriotic part of you, not partisanship. Some people have not been able to differentiate that. And they tend to think that being a member of a political party is to be blinded to things you can do or say that will help their party. It's not about just making criticism, but those criticisms that are quite frankly needed by the people of your government to be able to correct that. I have received feedback from the president of the country to the various people around him that the president appreciates me very much for my forthrightness and for my patriotic intervention on
That's
matters.
why you were at APC.
When I was in APC, right.
Okay. So then how differently do you intend to sell PDP if when you were in APC you were objective and all? How do you intend to sell PDP in a different light?
No, it doesn't even have to be in a different light. PDP doesn't even need to stress itself to be sold. Why? APC failed Nigerians. Assuming APC did not fail Nigerians, right? Then you will have to come with a better selling ideas to be able to convince, like a product. As long as the product is useful and in the market, if you're coming into the market, then you have to convince the people that this product is far better than this product. So you're saying Versace, you want to convince somebody that Louis Vuitton is better than Versace, you have to be able to advance argument. But when a product in the market has been proven to be okrika, for example, and then you're bringing in Louis Vuitton into the market, you don't need much work. All you need to say, this is Louis Vuitton, and this is, and this, and this, and this. I'm sure that with this, my example, there are lots of people who are very critical of natural who says, can you imagine? He's now giving an example with expensive things, but I'm just trying to explain because I'm talking about the quality of the product I'm selling. They came on 3 promises, right? They will fight corruption, they will deal with insecurity, and then the third one, they will revamp our economy. The president was quoted to have said on the 26th of February, right in the Chatham House, Royal Institute of International Affairs, he said, he accused PDP of wasting money in politics and that they were not investing in security. And he said, if he's elected, the world will have no reason to worry about Nigeria. 7 years now, the world has more reason to worry about Nigeria because when he took over office, it was only the Northeast that was a crisis spot. Now, in Nigeria, the Northeast is not completely, even though there are appreciable progress, it's not completely dealt with in terms of the insecurity. You have Northwest, which has now become the epicenter of crisis in Africa. Then you have the Southeast agitation and IPOB. Very sadly, yesterday you heard about what happened to Ifeanyi Uba, very sadly. And then you go to every part of Nigeria, there is no security. They even came close. They said they want to even abduct the president. People thought these guys were joking when they came and attacked the prison jail, right here in Abuja. They went to Kaduna. They almost chased the governor out of that. He had to write a letter to the president and said that these guys are somewhere in Kaduna, they are forming a government, and they said there will be no election.
But Dr. Bwala, how come it took you 7 years to realize all of this?
All these things happened when? When did the bandit did the jailbreak? How about the Kaduna something? When did it happen? When did they say they were going to abduct the president? The Northwest crisis. The Northwest crisis, when it started, we thought that the procurement of Tucano and some of these war equipment was going to deal with it because that's what he said PDP did not invest in. In the last 7 years, 7-point-something trillion has been spent in defense. Are we winning the war? We are losing the war. So it means that there's more to it than just procurement. It has to do with leadership. My major worry with Mr. President, and with the greatest respect, I respect him till tomorrow, but my major worry with him, and I've never failed to say that, I mean, if all you need is just to Google, you can see that multiple of those videos on YouTube, is that Mr. President, sadly, applies the Western world idea of giving you appointment and leaving you to use your judgment in a part of the world where that isn't working. So he appoints people, you just go to rest, thinking they have enough sense of judgment, they are not corrupt, they will do it. And that's how almost every fabric of this government has been destroyed and decimated. We talk about the interventions in COVID, we talk about humanitarian intervention, we talk about social investment, so many areas. In fact, recently, the president, when a report was submitted to him by Justice Salami, he cried out, it is also out in the media. He said he's truly disappointed that appointees in this government have betrayed the trust that he gave. And I said it long before now, that long after the president leaves office and a memoir is written in his name, if president is asked in the memoir, what are you going to regret? What do you regret the most? The president is going to say that I regretted not supervising the people I appointed because I trusted them, not knowing that in life you need to supervise even the people you trust. And he just said it even before leaving, that they have betrayed the trust of this administration.
All right. Now, so with regards to the same faith ticket, what are your thoughts on Senator Smart Adeyemi's legislation in order to ban that same faith ticket? Do you think that is it timely, and will that legislation actually make hold any kind of water?
It's not a legislation that will work in this time. It will probably be in the 10th assembly. The idea is welcomed, and usually when it comes to legislative drafting, the lawmakers think of a problem and think of solution. That's why when it comes to interpretation of construction of instruments like the Constitution or any extant law, they look at the intention of the lawmakers. What was the mischief that they were trying to resolve when they thought about that law? And in his own case, it is clearly a mischief, because if there is a law prohibiting that, we don't have to keep dragging and talking about this identity politics. You just know that you cannot take somebody of a different faith, you cannot take somebody of the same faith. Uh, and it has no correlation to saying you are limiting the rights of traditionalists and other religion, because it is just same faith ticket. It means that even if you are a Babalawo, if you are a flag bearer, you cannot take Babalawo again. If you're a Christian, you cannot take Christian again. So, but the other details about that law is whether the law will be applicable to presidential presidential election alone, or you're going to expand the coverage of that law to the states. If you're going to expand that coverage to the states, then there might be a problem of interference of the federal government on the federating unit, because they are meant to make laws for their own good as well. But you can make that presidential, because whoever becomes a president is the president of the republic. Even though when you become a senator, you're a senator of the republic, but you're a representative of your people. Okay. So these are some of the details that if I get the chance to meet with him, I'll help him out in that regard. But I support the spirit and intent.
All right. Now let's go to your party. Let's talk about this internal squabble in your party. Right. How does your party intend to resolve all of this internal fracas, even so, though sometimes they call it a family feud? So how do you intend to resolve it between the squabble between your principal, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, versus the governor of Rivers State, Governor Nyesom Wike, and then you still also have the talks about the resignation of your national chairman, that's Chayu. Now, we actually saw a report saying that this week there will be will be loaded with regards to the asking him to resign. So let's start with that first. How do you intend, what are the cleaning mechanisms that your party have put in place in order to resolve this quagmire, even as we look forward to the campaigns coming up in a few days' time?
Like we have always said, that there is no crisis in PDP, but there are disagreements between members of PDP. In this case, it is not a very major disagreement, because the party is called People's Democratic Party, consists of millions of Nigerians who have equal rights and opportunity in the party. Opportunity to be heard and then to participate in the development of the party and in the country. People have contested primaries, they lost and they moved on. People have agitated for a particular issue, they resolve and they move on.
Are you indirectly saying that Governor Wike should move on?
No, I'm saying generally, because Governor Wike was not the only person who lost the primaries. You know, it was not a primaries between Governor Wike and Atiku. There were other aspirants in the primaries. They moved on. Governor Wike's, and Governor Wike does not have so much of a problem in my view, because he knows the implication of, let's say, undermining the party, because he also has interest in the party. You know, the party is a party of shared interests. So, for example, I have tickets to deliver in my state, governorship, National Assembly, House of Assembly. I'm on the same party. If you are a presidential candidate and I want to antagonize or undermine your progression or your success or your chances at the election, it has a cyclical or repulse effect, because I'm also running the party. Can I be in the same party and de-promote somebody in the party? These are some of the reasons why I believe that Wike told all the other suitors coming around that he's not leaving PDP, he's going to stay. But with regards to Chayu, which is a fundamental question you ask, I don't think now it is still even discussing that, because a political party has organs, right? Organs of the party are the people that run the party. The minute you leave the organogram and organization of a party to begin to run it inconsistent with the provisions of the constitution of the party, then you are anti-democratic. The organs of the parties are the people that ratify. In the last meeting, they had a meeting, they ratified decisions. The NEC had a meeting, ratified the decisions of the NWC. And in fact, there was even a vote of confidence passed by the NEC on the NWC, functus officio. You know what we call functus officio in law? That when that decision is made, there's nothing else you can do. It has to, go like that. So this is one. And so everybody, a member of the party, is expected to just follow along and move. And like I said it, I have run for Senate where I felt at some point that it should have gone the way I wanted. Here in the FCT, when I was in APC, we were on with the party primaries, and the midway, they now said that the election was inconclusive, and they were going to fix another day for the election. And we went back waiting for another day. One day we just heard names of indigents were submitted to INEC. Some of my friends and colleagues and co-aspirants went to court. I, I had the right to go and I chose not to because political party is about people and I let it be. That's how a political party processes. If you remain in that party, then work towards the progress of that party. Any attempt to remove Iyochayu now, whoever is thinking that, I don't think thinks well of the chances of winning the election because you can see that the time is short, so much needs to be done, we need to consolidate, and if you're going to remove somebody who said, I have been elected and I'll stay, then that means you want to create a chaos situation. And the procedure for removing somebody, it is not by a fiat. This is not APC. Where anything that happens, they say, let's go to Villa. The Mr. President said it is Adamu. Then everybody sheathed his sword. Mr. President said it is Ahmed Lawa. No, it's not like that. The people will make a choice. When the people speak, then it stands. It stands. Let me give you an example of England and Wales. When Prime Minister David Cameron was superintending the affairs of the United Kingdom, then there was the agitation for them to leave the Union, the European Union. So it created two demographics or two interests in the UK. One, they call them the Remain. They support the idea that they should remain in the European Union. The other one, they call them the Leave, the Exit. Brexit, they call themselves. He was so confident that the British people will remain in the Union because England or United Kingdom within the Union is a leader. If you look at the foundation of European Union, the champion is, so how can you want to just go away from where you already have a dominant? That was how confident he was. So when they began the campaign, he was going all over. He went to Scotland. That was where he did his final campaign. By the time the election, even later there was a documentary, they said even those who voted to leave thought that they were only merely expressing displeasure, but the majority of the vote would be to remain. England woke up in the morning and saw that they did themselves. But in Africa, they say, anything do you. They just realized that majority of the vote was in favor of let's leave, Brexit. And look at how many years since then. Close to 10 years now. Since Brexit, they have not been able to completely detach themselves. It was not thought. But because it's the voice of the people, that's democracy. People have to follow. So People's Democratic Party is like that. The voice of the people.
But then you still have the Atiku's camp, and then you have the Wike's camp. And then we've seen Governor Wike keep making some statement. Last time he said he was going to flog his enemies pepperly and he's going to crush his enemies. And I'm sure Nigerians are wondering who exactly is those enemies he's talking about are. And then you just begin to wonder. Yes, you talked about the resolutions that were made last week with regard to how we saw the 21 point communique, and then we also saw that the BOT chairman had to resign. So how far-reaching are all of these resolutions in terms of solving or bringing the party back together?
So there is now, if you permit me, let me say this. There is no Wike's camp and Atiku's camp. There is People's Democratic Party and then Wike's camp.
Maybe that's what you think.
Because anybody who is not in Wike's camp is in favor of the People's Democratic Party and its candidate. No demilitarized zone. So there is no place where you say, somebody said, I am not Wike, I'm not Atiku, I'm somebody. Anybody who is not in Wike's camp has accepted the reality of Atiku as the presidential candidate and that we need to move on. So there is only a Wike's camp who were agitating. Now they have their right to agitate, like we have always said. And we have always maintained that Wike is one of the pride of PDP because he has been able to prove that you can deliver governance to the people. The little thing that Wike is working on is accepting the reality that he lost and that things can go. The idea that Iyochayu must leave stemmed from the thoughts that he had based on the constitution of the party that at all material times where the president, remember, president is from one part of the country, the chairman will be from another. Is Atiku a president? He's not. Not where the presidential candidate, no, where the president. So the fact that Iyocha Ayu said, as soon as a presidential candidate emerges, I will resign. He has not violated the constitution. It's like saying, I have a right to sit here. But I said, oh, well, if my brother comes, I don't mind standing for him. And then he comes in and I choose not to stand. I've not violated. I just changed my mind.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because the constitution of the party clearly, or the zoning formula, whatever it is that is agreed at all material times, the president will come from one part and the chairman will come from another. Now we have a chairman from one part, the president, we don't have it yet. The president of Nigeria is Buhari. So the party now said, we have a short time to go into election. Why don't we all focus? And then after the election, when Atiku becomes the president, then Iyocha Ayu will resign. He has conceded to that, right? But some people don't want to see it. They believe that he doesn't have to wait to be the president, that even at the presidential candidate, he has to come down. Then you have a vast majority or another set of people who tend to think that whoever is behind this agitation actually wants the party to lose election. Because if you begin to ask the man to come down and you steer some legal process, violate certain constitutional provision, create unnecessary drama, you get distracted from the election. And even the pundits and the analytics also, they have been able to show by the results that the analytics have been able to produce that PDP is on course to winning the election. So why would you allow distraction at this time?
So let me ask you, what exactly is the economic viability of Ayu being there in the seat as the national chairman or resigning? How much would that actually translate to vote on the election day?
So the same, you can make a converse argument. Will his removal also translate to vote? So if you say if it is staying will not translate, neither will his removal translate. But what I will tell you that status quo will help is that it will take away drama and it will keep us focused.
And PDP is not ready to be focused in order to, and is your party not ready to stay focused by accepting to remove him, since that's creating quite a lot of agitation?
Yes, the party, and what I mean by party, I'm talking about the organs of the party, consider that one, the man Iyocha Ayu has done extremely well. They were impressed by the progress they've made since his election into that office. And they pass a vote of confidence. In other words, keep doing what you're doing, we're happy. That is the party's decision now. If I have a different feeling or contrary opinion, it does not matter anymore. You see, this is where in Nigeria, to be honest, we have come to a point where we're practicing democracy by ambush. What I mean by democracy by ambush is that certain democratic values and ideals are suspended because of the personalities of people, right? So I am this, I am that, therefore constitutional provisions or laid down principles or conventions are to be suspended in order to pander to me. I need you to know, and by extension every Nigerian, the amendment to the Electoral Act 2022, so people have not come to terms, is that the people have stronger voice than individuals who occupy position of government. You know, in those days, a senator can tell you, okay, I'm going to give you 80% vote from my constituency. A governor can say, I will deliver 80 from my constituency. Because by the old Electoral Act, there were so much of leeway and windows by which people can manipulate vote to actually deliver on the promise. By the new amendment to the Electoral Act, now, there is what is called electronic transmission of result. What that means is that the opportunity that hitherto politicians had in the past of manipulating or replacing votes to meet up with promises is no longer tenable.
So if Governor Wike says that you have a chunk of votes coming from Rivers State, and then you hear statements like, ignore Wike at your own peril, because he already has like his votes coming from that region, are you actually saying that the new electoral amendment, the new Electoral Act would definitely jettison that part where he would promise votes from his area? Is that what you're saying?
If he says that we have a pool of votes from Rivers because it's a PDP state, I will agree 100%. Because if it is a PDP state, understandably, that members of the party will vote for their party. All right? But if he said, ignore Wike, not ignore Rivers, ignore Wike at your own peril, that's where I'll have a little bit of disagreement. Because there is no guarantee that he can give the votes he promised. He's only entitled to one vote. The best he can do by the new amendment, I'm sure a lot of politicians actually have not been able to come to terms with that. Osun has demonstrated that. The governor of that state, and Asiwaju, historically is from Osun. They move all the machineries of the Southwest to Osun, guaranteed overwhelming victory. Do you know the outcome? APC was defeated. Do you know why? Electronic transmission of results is that the highest you can do as a governor is to persuade many people. Just keep persuading them to come to vote. But the idea that I can, and I'm telling you this, you will come back to me after 2023 election, God keeping us alive and well, and we will analyze this idea that I will give certain vote will no longer be tenable.
We're due for a break. Let's go on this quick break, and when we return, we'll continue with this conversation. Don't move a muscle. We will be right back.
Peter Obi actually bought form for presidential. Peter Obi underwent screening in PDP. If not because Peter Obi left, Peter Obi would have been contested, and if he had lost, he would still be in PDP. And the people will look at him and say, these are the old. Simply because he left and moved to Labour, he has now been washed. But if I look at Atiku, I look at Tinubu, I look at Kwankwaso, I look at Peter Obi, and I look at the four of them, and you ask me who is the right candidate.
Even though we still have a number of other parties.
Yes.
You have the ADC, you have SDP, you have quite a lot of them.
ADC, they sack their candidates. Lots of parties, people sack their candidates. I never see you. I'm telling you the patriotic part of it, from the depth of my heart. Atiku is present, Obi is the future. Atiku is present, Obi is the future. If you drop Obi as president now, before Obi will understand what is happening, Nigeria will have long changed to something else. Why do I say he's the future? He's young, he's adaptive, he will want to learn.
When is the future? 2027?
It can be any time after now.
If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. If you just joined us, you missed out on a lot, but then you can still join in the conversation. Our guest on the show today is Dr. Daniel Bwala. He is a spokesperson for Atiku Abubakar Presidential Campaign Organization. All right, before we went on that break, we said quite a lot of things, but then let's talk about other things. Now, you recently made a statement in an interview where you stated that Obasanjo is using Obi as a pawn to support Tinubu. Why exactly did you make that statement? Were you trying to stir up some kind of emotions from his supporters?
Whose supporters?
The obedience.
Okay, no, not really. Why I said that is because it wasn't even me. I was only re-echoing, if you had the interview, what I read in an article. And you can just Google that. Somebody was just giving his own piece of thought about this idea of Obi and the fact that Obasanjo is supporting Obi. You know, Obasanjo has not come openly to say I'm supporting Obi, although everybody knows he's supporting Obi. And in that interview, I said, why I know he's supporting Obi.
Does everybody know?
Yes, I think so, because it's out in the media. And why I said I am convinced beyond a shadow of doubt in that interview was because he contacted me after I left APC to join him in support of Obi, so I know beyond reasonable doubt. But the guy in the article, the fellow was saying that President Obasanjo has been going to the north, and he goes to the north to support the candidacy or candidature of Peter Obi. The north is considered as a default vote for Atiku. It is not really given, but considered. Just the same way they will say Peter Obi has a vote of the Southeast. Not because he has been tested, but because he's from the Southeast, that is the assumption. So the guy now said that why is it that there are documented and checkered history of Obasanjo's visit and connection and engagement with people from the North to throw their weight behind Peter Obi, but Obasanjo has not engaged with the people from the West. So whether South, 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 East, or Southwest are meant to be Southern Nigeria. And if a candidate is to put up a good fight, you have to be a witness first in Jerusalem. And I'm saying that from the biblical point of view. So why is he not engaging? So the fellow now in his article said, that means there is this likelihood that Obasanjo is supporting Asiwaju. And what prompted his write-up was that he said, Obasanjo has a checkered history of granting interview each time somebody visited him, so that the masses will know why you came to see him, what his position was on your visit, and that there are documentary, evidence. But that on this occasion, as Asiwaju visited him, they came out without addressing the media. People began to answer, why is it that but neither Asiwaju nor him at that spot addressed the media? Then 2 days later, according to the fellow, he read somewhere where Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila, in one of his APC's events, he said that he was in the room when Obasanjo was talking with Asiwaju and Obasanjo promised to support him. So the guy now said, then that may be the reason why Obasanjo has not been going to the Southwest, meaning that the vote of the Southwest should be untouched, but the vote in the North should be touched. So then the young man concluded that if this is the case, then Obasanjo may not have been working for Peter Obi, but using Peter Obi as a pawn to support Asiwaju.
So that's why you actually agreed to that?
Yes, I record that, yeah.
Okay.
Record that, yeah.
All right, so now let's take a detour and then talk about the Atiku Abubakar'S mantra.
Right.
He said that he actually, when he won the ticket to represent the party, he said he wants to unify Nigeria rather.
Right.
So now I'm wondering, Nigerians are wondering, how exactly is he intending, what are his blueprints with regards to unifying the country, where you have pockets of agitations, you have people calling for different things in the Southwest, the IPOPs, the Oduduwa Nation, one people calling for one thing or the other. How exactly does he want to bring these people back to the round table? That's one on the side. I'm going to ask you 2 questions and I'd like you to unbundle them in one breath. Now that's one on the side. And then the second is, if they say charity begins at home, how exactly is Atiku Abubakar intending to unify his party and then bring it down to the country?
Good. So let me start with the first one, since you asked for the first one. Atiku intends to unify the country. First, he has demonstrated by his lifestyle that he is a Nigerian in the true sense of the word. If Atiku goes to the Southeast, he's been accepted. Goes to the Southwest, he's accepted. South is accepted. The North is accepted. Over a period of time that he has developed his business, and even when he was vice president, he interrelated, interconnected, and synergized with people from different parts of the country. If you go to his office now or his businesses, you will see Nigeria reflected. Atiku has never been characterized or categorized as an ethnic champion. The other 2 presidential candidates are, in the case of Peter Obi had been asked so many times to condemn the IPOB. He has never done that. A video yesterday emerged where he was having a private chat about his observation on a WhatsApp group where somebody talked about ethnicity. And the way Amana Ekuchi echoed it, he pandered towards that ethnic championship. Asiwaju, many years ago, has been seen as somebody who was alleged, or we have said he never believed in Nigeria when he was with the Nadeko. And that people will say over the years, he has not done anything substantial to suggest that he has spread himself around Nigeria to be considered as a Nigerian in the real sense of the word. So in terms of unification, when the campaign starts and you say, I will unify Nigeria, Nigerians will look at you. Because you can say it, but the idea is, have you demonstrated that? So if the 3 of them go to the market square, Atiku will sell more because his life reflects the unity of the country. But that is even documented in his covenant with the Nigerian people. Part of his approach to fighting insecurity is not just to carry bomb and guns and go and start shooting everybody. He said to look at what are the root causes. He said, for example, in the Southeast, the reason for the agitation is because they feel they are not part of the country. They have not been integrated. And that his policy objective is to ensure that every Nigerian from any part of the country where he is, he can, like the Americans say, think of the American dream. He can think of becoming a president. And he will not imagine that I can be anything in Nigeria, but I cannot be president because I'm Igbo, or I cannot be president because I'm this tribe. And when you begin to bring up programs that integrate, that's when people believe you're talking about unification, not just in the mouth. Even in terms of the economic policy, you have to have what they call the sharing, the distribution of the wealth of the country. Investment of the wealth of the country should not be on one part of Nigeria. Every part of Nigeria should feel the effect of the prosperity of Nigeria. They should have access to the same equal opportunity. And Atiku is not saying it, he has done it. That's the good thing about him. There was a documentary that came out on the candidate of the APC. From the beginning to the end, they were just denying the fact that he does any business. So you keep saying, if they say you own Alpha Beta, you say you don't own it. You own Oriental, you say you don't own it. Everywhere they tell you don't own it. So where is the source of your wealth? This money you're pushing everywhere, is it coming from? On the other hand, you have the candidate of Labour, who is a smart guy, as far as I'm concerned, but his policy objectives, whether with security, which he said is keeping it to his chest, or economy, which has always been on incoherent and unverified stats, it's difficult for you to be able to say that. I have advised, if Peter Obi wants to make a statement, that 1-2 weeks that he spent in North America, going to Canada and US, pandering to people who want, they don't have the voters card, they will not come to vote. I mean, it's okay to go there, but what I'm saying is, this period that you spent there, had you spent this period by going to Kano, Kaduna, Sokoto, Borno, Yobe, let the part of the country know that you are not an ethnic champion. You believe in one Nigeria. It will serve more good to your campaign.
But sorry to cut in there, taking a cue from where you just landed,
right.
A lot of people have actually said that Atiku Abubakar he's not usually in Nigeria. You just see him like every 4 years when there's a politics or there's a campaign or one election or the other. So how in touch is he with the realities on ground?
I have been asked that question, and I think I answered in a viral video interview that I granted with Channels Television. Atiku was abroad to study. And that's another positive of Atiku over and above the other colleague of his. He just badged his master's from Anglia Ruskin University in the UK, the universities in Cambridge. He just badged his master's because he believes you need to update yourself. We're in a changing times, and you have to also change with the changing times by updating yourself. Atiku believes that him taking an example of demonstrating going to school should inspire the young people. And then the ultimate belief is that a nation that hinges on natural resources that is already going can convert itself from an economy that depends on natural resources to a knowledge-based economy. So that is basically what he did. And in that interview, I cited an example. I say I was away in England for some time, and I would see engagement on social media. Each time I granted an interview via Zoom, they would say, he's not even living in Nigeria. That's why he could talk like that. Come to ground and see how we are suffering. And they didn't know for the period I was away, I went for my daughter's medicals. So in life, you will find people who, and if he was not in touch with the base, how come he came and he won the primaries? Purely on the basis of politics. I need you to know the South gave Atiku massive votes. Southeast gave Atiku massive votes.
So they also did for Governor Wike.
Pardon?
They also did for Governor Wike before you had the last minute acceptance from Governor Tambuwa.
So but how were you able to, how can you quantify the votes of Tambuwa? The thing is that the votes Atiku got, if you combine the vote of Wike and the vote of, say, Saraki, and probably the vote of the governor of Bauchi, is still not enough to cancel Atiku's vote. But what I'm trying to say in this example that I'm giving is to suggest that if you are not in touch, you cannot win. And if and in this 21st century, there are many ways you can be in touch. He has always been on Twitter, intervening on every issue of Nigeria, sending his condolences, appreciating Nigerians doing well, both in Nigeria and abroad, and frequently he's in Nigeria and he goes on. There are many ways you grant interview. We're in the 21st century. The president of America governs America anywhere he is, on the land, in the sea, or in the inter part of the world. This is how knowledge of governance also will help you to translate yourself from the mundane type of leadership that we have to a more advanced way. And the other candidates don't come close to that. For example, I saw the you probably may have come across this fact we talk about Lagos. You know, the government with APC, they have performed so poorly that they did not want to campaign on the record of Buhari. So when they began at the beginning, they said, you cannot judge Asiwaju on the record of Buhari. So we came out and said, wait a minute, who sponsors a candidate at the election? It's a political party. Is it not an APC-led government? Oh, so you people want to even abandon him this early? They now came back and said, no. We are going to double down. We say Buhari has done well. We are going to improve. So they now went all over the media. He has done very well. We are going to improve. Then we say, wait a minute. He has done well, right? Okay, so let's see what we want to improve. The insecurity in the Northwest. So you want to spread it across Nigeria. We gave them economic indices. We gave them indices in the area of corruption. We gave them indices in all the failure. They say, oh, they start again. If we go this part, it might be more damaging. You know what? Let us invent something. Let us come up with a record of Asiwaju. Let's say what he did in Lagos, he will translate. So they went now and came back and now say Asiwaju made Lagos a modern city. We now say, wait a minute. Hold on. Lagos is compared to countries in Africa. In those days, when they say London, New York, they say Lagos, even in CNN, because all the infrastructure of a country was in Lagos. If you look at the picture, the area view of Lagos in 1950s, you will know that Lagos had all the facilities for an economically viable state. These are the things that brought jobs, employment, generated the revenue of Lagos. Right. And we were able to prove to them that what Asiwaju did was he actually came and collected tax. And this tax that he collected is because they were using alpha beta, which he has still not been able to answer whether he owns it. He has a stake in it. Mm. So now that we have been able to puncture the idea that Asiwaju made Lagos, we're able to prove to them the infrastructure of government. They now talk about Lekki. They talk about Eco Atlantic, as if the Lagos state government did the project. Number one, Lagos state government did not do the project of Eco Atlantic. Number two, it was not a public-private partnership. Number three, Kobo of Lagos state government did not go into that war. Number four, they did not bring the investors. The Shaguris have been around. They've been doing business. And the Shaguris know they have Eco Hotel. They have some of their investments around the island. If this thing persists, it's going to affect their investment. And then they now saw the untapped opportunity in that area, and they decided to invest. The man just grabbed it and said he did it in Lagos. In fact, some of the achievements of Fashola and Ambode, he put together. I was listening to the documentary. So funny. They said he projected a 27-year plan. But when they started talking in the documentary, they were talking about short-term and mid-term. 27-year plan is a long term. It's not a mid-term. Right. So but the reason they projected 27 is so they can take the glory of Ambode and the glory of Fashola. Ambode, let me tell you something that will shock you. Asiwaju and Fashola, by the time they left government, they left a debt burden of $1.4 billion, despite the revenue and despite federal allocation. When Ambode came on board, Ambode told Lagosians he was not going to collect any foreign loan. He was going to work with the IGR and federal allocation. I don't want to sound religious, but I wanted to say to the glory of God. After 4 years, Ambode was able to do infrastructure in Lagos, arguably the best. Ambode even spread out a payment plan of the loan, and Ambode kept clean balance sheet. Meaning that they had the opportunity of doing the same. When this campaign gets heated, when we begin to compare notes in terms of stats, minus and plus, at the end of the day, what they may be left with is that they need to return certain money to the Lagos state coffers. Ambode was able to print, and with all that Ambode did, they didn't deem it fit to give this man second term.
Okay, now
The three might
let's
decide.
let's take a cue. Let's continue from where you landed. Corruption, fighting corruption, and then you talked about how this government came with that mantra of fighting corruption, stabilizing the country, and then protecting lives and properties of Nigerians. Now, if we have to talk about corruption, which we know that it has eaten deep in every fabric of our society. In fact, it has been institutionalized. Now you have a lot of accusations from the former president during when your principal, Atiku Abubakar, was the vice president, from his principal at the time, that's Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, who talked about how much he embezzled funds, how much he engaged in nepotism and favoritism, where he put his own people in with regards to the privatization of NEPA, power sector. Now, if we have to talk about that, and then you are talking about other parties, how they've engaged in corruption. Now, how will Atiku Abubakar actually look at Nigerians in the eye and tell them that when I become the next CEO of Nigeria, I will definitely look into corruption and make sure that termites, snakes, monkeys don't come and eat up your money, and then they go when they put them in prison, they come back again and want to go into elective positions right at their faces. How does he want to look at Nigerians in the eye and tell them that I will fight corruption, hook, line, sinker?
Atiku will fight corruption not from the way of the mouth, right? If there is any government that has made so much mouth about fighting corruption, is this administration, this APC-led government. I recall when President Bwala told Christian Amanpour of CNN, he said that famous quote that if we don't fight corruption, corruption will kill us. Today, this administration, sadly, but I will exonerate Buhari as a person, has produced more corrupt people than all the administrations put together. You are here, you just mentioned monkeys, mosquito. Previously, there was nothing like that. I just saw one now today. They said that how many 35 something assets that of the Zani that was recovered now are rotten. Then somebody on the platform said they are laying a foundation now to steal something again. Now they've talked so much about it, but with little result. It boils down to what I told you when there is no supervision. Atiku will bring about that leadership. And then institutional framework. When you strengthen the institution, they fight corruption. Remember, Atiku single-handedly, when he was under Obasanjo, with Obasanjo's kind approval and leadership, Atiku set up that EFCC you see. The Ribadu, it was Atiku boy. The Unify of the world, Atiku boys, even though he was not in the EFCC and BPA. And then you see a lot of Atiku boys that he raised. Atiku is somebody who believes in setting up institutions. And EFCC today is an institution in the country. That's one. Let me answer strictly. I did that before. You see, Obasanjo, all the things he accused Atiku of, if you look at the timeline of what you were saying, it's like he's accusing Atiku of the crime that he believed occurred at the time he was in good terms with Atiku. But he never said it. The only time Obasanjo started fighting Atiku on that was when Atiku frustrated the Tota plan with the National Assembly. And then he began to say Atiku stole this thing. He sent Ribadu, then the chairman of EFCC, all over the world to go and get evidence against Atiku. By the time Ribadu toured around the world, he brought empty hand, no evidence. Otherwise, by now, Atiku has left government in 2007. Why is it that successive governments that have come, they have not been able to prosecute him? Let's say that you're looking at prosecution as extreme end, but at least there should be indictment to say that there is a finding, this is the evidence against him. He has never been invited by EFCC. They are all conjecture. And the law we're running, the rule of law that we're running starts with indictment, prosecution, and conviction. Then you say, this person has been convicted of corruption. But the same Obasanjo, look at it. You now call him all sorts of names. In 2019, you now told the world that when you were asked about those corrupt something, you say, no, you cleared him. And in 2021, you say you regretted ever working with him. So if a nation is not built on laws, but is built on impression of people, then that means there can never be a society that gravitates towards a rule of law. Why? Because your impression of him, my impression of you, his impression of me might differ. People have different perspectives. So this is the worst you have heard about Atiku. But the other presidential candidates have been investigated by EFCC. So when Atiku comes on board, in my view, he will strengthen the institutions to fight corruption. And one of the ways you can strengthen the institution is by closing loopholes. Because, for example, as long as you continue to leave the meat and you let the dog keep going around the meat, thinking that the dog will not eat the meat because he has been trained well, one day the dog will eat the meat and there's nothing you can say about it. But if you set up a system where if the dog brings his mouth to the meat, his mouth will break, then the dog will avoid it.
All right.
That is what we need in a free society.
All right, our time is fast spent, but before we leave, I'd like to ask you, because Atiku Abubakar promises women, or promised to give women and the youth 40% cabinet position. So how exactly does he plan to make this sharing? What is the sharing formula? Even when we know that we've seen how much the 35% affirmative and they came forth, and then women still asking for more, at least 50% and more, and then you still have them throw it out in the National Assembly. So what is the sharing formula? How is he intending to share this 40% between women and youth? Because inside the youth, you still have women.
Yes, I must admit to you, quite frankly, that I have not seen that either in his policy document or at any material time where he said it publicly. And I'll be happy if you can refer me to where he said it. Then I can probably build more on that. I would like to have a private engagement with him to help him see the effort we made in the National Assembly. When we started this constitutional review, I remember we were the people. In fact, some of the bills about women and youth more of the bills came from the office of Senator Omo Agege, the Deputy Senate President. He felt so passionate about that, and I drafted those bills for him, where we gave even cabinet position, all appointing position in terms of ambassador, DGs, ministers, certain people not above the age of 35, and women not less than 5, not less than 10 in cabinet position. So, for example, if you're a governor, you know that no matter how hard you try, no matter how you hate women, you must have at least 10 women in your commissioner position. Then the arguments some people made was, what are other states that the commissioners are not up to 20? If you get 10 for women, there have been arguments like that. So we had series of sessions where these things were deliberated. Short of a long story, we agreed into making for the youth, I think 30, for the women 30%, then for the youth, I think about 5 or 7%, and we push it into a bill. When they go to the National Assembly, they did a ping pong. You know what in table tennis they call ping pong with it, sadly. And why I said it was sadly, because we had sleepless night working on that. And these are part of the things that even me, in my own capacity, I would love to suggest to my principal that it would be good if we can look into that, because there must be a transition from the old to the younger generation. Nigeria has, I think they say, the greater population of young people in Africa. So if there is no transition from the old to the young, then Nigeria does not have a future. I am fully in support of giving opportunities to women, fully in support of giving opportunities to the youth. And when you come to the youth, it can be both men and women. So that way we can have a society that is thriving.
All right.
Sometimes the Western world, let me end by saying this, they tend to throw some concept to us and hit it and want to force it through our throat. But when it was their time, it grew naturally and organically. There was a time in the US and the rest of the world, gay rights was anathema. Today they had it and they want to force it into Africa. That is almost 100 or 200 years behind them, right? Meanwhile, right to food, having food access and the rest, which is our right, they are not looking at it that way. They will point to Rwanda and say 80% of the people in government are women. But the president in the US, a woman came to close to becoming a president. They frustrated that.
All right.
That's the largest economy in the world.
All right, now let's end on this note. You actually said, when we started, you said that you have the partisan part and then you have the patriotic part. Now, let's speak to your patriotic part.
Right.
Would you actually look at Nigerians in the eye and then tell them that with all this quagmire Nigeria is going through, insecurity, the economy, and all of the hydra-headed challenges, that the patriotic me is saying that vote Atiku Abubakar, and your vote to Atiku Abubakar is a sure one? Will you actually look at them in the eye and say so?
Let me tell you from the depth of my heart, when I left APC, I was alone for a while. I was approached by Labour. And I know the candidates. Peter Obi is not a new phenomenon. If not because he did not secure the ticket, he did not Peter Obi actually bought form for presidential. Peter Obi underwent screening in PDP. If not because Peter Obi left, Peter Obi would have been contested, and if he had lost, he would still be in PDP. And the people will look at him and say, these are the old. Simply because he left and moved to Labour, he has now been washed. But if I look at Atiku, I look at Tinubu, I look at Kwankwaso, I look at Peter Obi, and I look at the four of them, and you ask me who is the right candidate.
Even though we still have a number of other parties.
Yes.
You have the ADC, you have SDP, you have quite a lot of them.
ADC, they sack their candidates. Some parties, people sack their candidates. I never see you. On the eve of election, you are sacking your candidate. Then who else will become president? I'm not even talking about that, but these are the four major candidates. I am telling you the patriotic part of me, from the depth of my heart. Atiku is present, Obi is the future. Atiku is present, Obi is the future. If you drop Obi as president now, before Obi will understand what is happening, Nigeria would have long changed to something else. I have tried as much as possible to assimilate what is his philosophy of security. He has not been able to give one sentence. He said, I have it is in my heart. Nobody, how can people just say, let's get there, when we get there, we'll know what you have to say. Look at the way we are divided across Nigeria, insecurity. So you cannot trust that to someone like that. That's one. Don't forget why I said he's the future. Atiku gave him the limelight that you see. When he ran with Atiku as vice president, he became sharpened in his ideas. You could see how he gained traction, which became the foundation for him running. Now, he is the future. Why do I say he's the future? He's young, he's adaptive, he will want to learn.
When is the future? 2027?
It can be any time after now. You see, because if Atiku wins the election and is able to do all that is needed to put us on the path, and he chooses not to go after 4 years, that's it. Because it is not a monster because you are a president, you must do it 2 times.
No. Do you actually have people who want to do 1 term and leave?
Mandela did 1 time.
I mean in Nigeria, we're talking about Nigeria.
Well, for now, we haven't seen.
Okay.
We have not seen for now. We have seen one. They even wanted a 3rd term. And when that thing failed, nobody knew peace since then till today. In fact, somebody said he has since been searching for the 3rd term. He supported Yar'Adua. You remember? And then it wasn't long he had a problem with Yar'Adua. He turned his back from Yar'Adua. He supported Jonathan. And long after that, he said even Jonathan was training 1,000 snipers. He supported Buhari. Buhari won. The 2nd time, he fell out with Buhari. He now supported Atiku. Atiku did not get. Now he's picking up someone else. So we have people who have attempted 3rd time. But I am very optimistic that a good person, when he sees that fundamental part of what you intend for the country is done, you won't be crazy about wanting a 2nd term.
All right. Thank you so much for your time with us, Dr. Daniel Bwala. It's been a wonderful time having this talk with you.
Thank you. My pleasure as always. And thank you for coming.
All right, viewers, that's all we can take on today's edition of the show. We have been talking to Dr. Daniel Hassan Bwala. He is the spokesperson for Atiku Abubakar Presidential Campaign Committee. It's been a wonderful time here on the show. Keep watching the conversation because you never know who my next guest will be and what my next topic will be all about. Till I come your way again from the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Annabelle Oji. God bless Nigeria.